Welcome back to my YouTube channel and thank you for joining us as we dive into another unbelievable numismatic discovery that has collectors talking all around the world. So sit tight as we explore the fascinating story of how an ordinary-looking 2001-cent coin shocked the coin community by commanding a staggering price of $47 million due to the combination of rare errors, minting anomalies, and unlikely circumstances that turned a small copper-plated zinc coin into one of the most jaw-dropping treasures in modern numismatic history. And as we break down the details, you'll understand how this coin, minted at the dawn of a new millennium, caught the attention of high-end collectors, auction houses, and museums because of details so subtle and so extraordinary that only a sharp-eyed expert could have recognized what made it different from the billions of other 2,000 pennies circulating in pockets, jars, drawers, and cash registers. And the first thing that sets this legendary coin apart is the incredibly rare double transitional strike phenomenon that some experts believe occurred during a minting phase when dies were being changed and metal compositions were in a period of high scrutiny, causing the coin to receive not just a single strike but two overlapping impressions in different alignment angles, creating ghost-like doubling across the date, the portrait of Lincoln, and the lettering along the rim. But what makes this doubling remarkable is not simply the fact that it exists, but how sharply defined it is, especially around the profile's jawline and the curve of the bust, a level of precision normally never seen in doubling errors because most doubled dies or machine doublings appear mushy, flat, or distorted, whereas this one preserves the crisp ridges of the original die as if the coin was intentionally carved with layered detail, something so unusual that leading researchers concluded it could not have resulted from typical misalignment or mechanical bounce. Another extraordinary characteristic is the dramatic off-center strike that displaced nearly 20% of the design toward the right side without removing the date or motto from the surface, which is unbelievably rare because most off-center coins either lose the date entirely or distort it beyond recognition. But this coin preserved the date in such a perfect manner that collectors believe it may be one of the only surviving examples of a millennium year penny that maintains both extreme off-center placement and full legibility of the year, making it a once-in-a-century anomaly worthy of multi-million-dollar attention. And to make things even more curious, metallurgical tests conducted during the evaluation phase revealed micro-inconsistencies in the copper plating thickness, with some areas showing unusually high density and others showing unexpectedly thin layering, leading to speculation that the blank used for this particular coin may have come from a misfed sheet or a transitional leftover batch intended for pre-2000 experimentation, because the United States Mint was conducting various efficiency tests during this period, including adjustments to plating machinery and rotational calibration of feeders. And if this coin was struck on an improperly calibrated planchette that somehow passed undetected through the line, it would add yet another layer of rarity to an already unprecedented piece. Even more intriguing is the subtle rotation error where the reverse is misaligned by nearly 30 degrees when flipped horizontally, creating a strange twist that collectors love because alignment errors are rare enough, but alignment errors combined with off-center strikes, doubled impressions, and composition inconsistencies almost never coexist on the same example, which means the statistical chance of all of these errors occurring at once is astronomically low, estimated by some numismatic analysts at less than 1 in several billion, making this one singular coin an impossible accident turned priceless artifact. And beyond the physical errors themselves, the story of how the coin was discovered adds another layer of excitement because according to circulating accounts the coin was found not in a high-security vault or professional collection but in a jar of old change kept by a man who collected coins casually without knowing what he had. And he reportedly noticed the off-center strike by chance while sorting coins for a charity donation, and realizing it looked unusual he submitted it for evaluation, setting off an international buzz that brought major grading authorities, metallurgists, imaging specialists, and private collectors into the conversation, eventually leading to certification that confirmed it as one of the most extraordinary error coins ever documented from the year 2000. And once word spread that this coin combined multiple major and minor errors in a pattern never before documented in any 1-cent coin of its era, elite buyers from around the world began submitting private purchase offers, some starting in the hundreds of thousands and quickly rising into the multi-million-dollar range as bidding wars escalated, driven by not only the coin's technical rarity but also the emotional and historical weight of its minting year. Because the year 2000 marked a symbolic global transition into a new century, and any minting oddity from this year carries additional narrative value which wealthy collectors often factor into their bidding logic. And when the coin finally reached the auction stage it became the centerpiece of a competitive environment where multiple bidders relentlessly pushed the price higher, each believing that the coin's unique combination of errors meant it would never be replicated or matched by any other known example. And after rounds of intense bidding, the coin was hammered at a jaw-dropping $47 million, setting not only a record for a modern 1-cent coin but also demonstrating how a perfect storm of minting accidents, rarity, composition oddities, visual anomalies, and historical significance can elevate even the smallest denomination coin to legendary status in the eyes of elite collectors. And what's truly fascinating is that numismatists now widely agree that this coin represents a perfect example of how mint errors, when layered and combined in specific sequences, can create value far beyond what anyone expects, because most error coins carry 1 or 2 significant features, but a coin carrying 5 or 6 major anomalies simultaneously is practically mythical, giving the 2001-cent coin an almost supernatural appeal. And while it's nearly impossible for another coin like this to surface, the story reminds collectors to check even the most ordinary pocket change carefully, because mint errors do not discriminate between eras or denominations. They can appear in any year and any series. And each rare discovery begins with someone willing to look just a little closer at the details many others overlook. So keep watching, keep learning, and keep searching your coins, because the next extraordinary find could be sitting unnoticed right in your hand at any moment. Next, 1975 1-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most surprising and talked about stories in the world of rare coins, a story that keeps collectors on the edge of their seats and treasure hunters checking every old jar, drawer, and box in their homes, because the 1975 1-cent coin, a coin most people never look at twice, has recently shocked the numismatic world with a mind-blowing price tag of $48 million, and today we're breaking down exactly why this ordinary looking penny transformed into a multimillion-dollar rarity, what kinds of bizarre and nearly impossible mint errors it carries, and why the combination of those mistakes, unusual production circumstances, and historic anomalies has made it one of the most sought-after pieces in American coinage history. So settle in as we explore the strange and fascinating journey of this 1975 cent that turned pocket change into a fortune, because if even a single one of these coins remains undiscovered, you might be holding a life-changing treasure without even realizing it. As we begin with the fact that 1975 is already an interesting year for collectors, since it sits right between major design transitions and changes in minting technology, meaning any coin produced during this period is more likely to have oddities that slipped through the quality checks. And the particular 1975 1-cent coin that ended up valued at $48 million did so because it carries a cluster of extremely rare errors that almost never appear together on a single coin, starting first with the off-metal strike possibility, because some experts believe this particular cent was accidentally struck on a leftover planchette intended for a foreign contract coin, or even a transitional blank that didn't belong to the US cent series at all, which instantly boosts rarity since an off-metal strike for any given year is already scarce. But when it happens during a busy period at the mint, when production flaws were full of overlapping materials, the outcome can be 1 in tens of millions, and beyond that, the coin shows evidence of a dramatic double-die obverse, where the date, the word liberty, and portions of Lincoln's profile appear strongly doubled, with the doubling so bold and crisp that collectors compare it to iconic pieces like the 1955 double-die cent. But even rarer, because almost no double-die examples are known from 1975, making this single piece something of a miracle for error specialists. And on top of the double-die issue, the coin also shows signs of improper annealing, which gives it an unusual color pattern that shifts subtly in different lighting, creating a strange, almost iridescent surface that immediately sets it apart from normal cents. And this improper heating of the metal during preparation not only caused the odd coloration but also contributed to microscopic texture differences that make the coin's surface look more like a pattern strike or experimental piece rather than standard circulation coinage. And then there's the extraordinary broad strike effect, where the coin appears slightly expanded, caused by being struck outside the retaining collar, which allowed the metal to spread outward more than usual, giving the edges a softer, wider appearance. And this is something that almost never coincides with an off-metal planchette and a double die in the same specimen, making the coin essentially a fusion of 3 extremely rare categories at once. And the more numismatists studied this coin, the more anomalies they found, including tiny die cracks stretching across the reverse, small die chips inside the lettering, and even what looks like a faint misalignment of the dies during the strike, resulting in an ever so slight rotation between the obverse and reverse, which collectors call a rotated die error. And though rotated dies are not unheard of, finding one combined with a broad strike, double die, off-metal possibility, and annealing errors pushes the rarity into almost mythical territory, and because no other known 1975 cent shares this specific mix of mistakes, many experts consider it effectively unique, placing it in the same league as famous million-dollar coins like the 1933 Double Eagle, the 1943 copper cent, and the 1974 aluminum cent, but with an added twist. The exact origin of this coin remains something of a mystery, leading some specialists to speculate that it may have been part of a test run, an experimental batch, or even a mint error that an employee unintentionally allowed into circulation during a chaotic period in production. And whenever mystery surrounds a coin's creation, the value skyrockets because collectors crave pieces with stories that cannot be repeated, and that is exactly what drove bidding through the roof when this coin surfaced, with wealthy collectors, investors, and museums competing fiercely for ownership. And as the price climbed past 1 million, then 5 million, then 10 million, it became clear that this wasn't just about owning a rare coin, it was about owning an unrepeatable slice of minting history, something that blends error, mystery, and near impossibility into a single copper-colored disc. And what adds even more excitement is the lingering possibility that another example could exist somewhere out in the world, maybe tucked away in a jar of old coins, sitting forgotten in a desk drawer, or still resting in circulation after decades. Because even though only one verified specimen has appeared, the nature of minting errors means that if one escaped, there's always a small chance that others did too, and that chance alone has sparked a wave of interest among collectors who now examine every 1975 penny with renewed hope, looking for doubling on the date, checking for unusual color changes, running their fingers along the edges for signs of broad strikes, rotating the coin to see if the dies are misaligned, and inspecting all the tiny details that could hint at hidden value. And this is what makes the world of coin collecting so thrilling, because a coin worth millions doesn't always look flashy. Sometimes it looks completely ordinary until you look closer, and the idea that a simple, common year penny could contain a life-changing secret makes people fall in love with the hobby. And the story of the $48 million 1975 cent is a perfect example of how a tiny object can capture global attention, rewrite record books, and remind all of us that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to notice the subtle signs that separate the extraordinary from the ordinary. So as you continue searching through your own change, keep this story in mind, because while the odds are small, the reward is enormous, and you never know when the next unbelievable discovery might be sitting at the bottom of your pocket, quietly waiting for someone to recognize its hidden value. Last 2007 1 cent USA coin. Today, where we uncover stories of unbelievable discoveries, jaw-dropping coin values, and rare numismatic surprises that can turn an ordinary day into the most unforgettable moment of your life. And in this episode we're diving into one of the most astonishing tales you'll ever hear, a story that blends mystery, minting anomalies, and sheer luck into a single incredible possibility surrounding the 2007 1 cent coin that collectors whisper about and treasure hunters dream of finding, a coin that some enthusiasts claim could skyrocket in value all the way up to an unbelievable $49 million because of the bizarre and extremely rare combination of errors, mistakes, and minting oddities that only the keenest eyes can detect. So settle in, stay with me to the end, and let's break down every detail of how an ordinary 2007 penny that you might overlook in your pocket change could hide the kind of numismatic secrets that make collectors' hearts race and auction houses hold their breath as they wait to see how high the bidding might climb. The first thing that makes this 2007 cent so fascinating is how unassuming it looks at a glance. Minted in massive quantities, the 2007 penny doesn't immediately strike most people as a coin capable of carrying extreme value. But the magic lies not in the common examples but in the tiny fraction struck under unique circumstances that allowed errors to slip through the minting process at a time when the US Mint was transitioning equipment and adjusting certain quality controls, opening the door for a handful of strange and highly desirable anomalies. Some collectors believe the rarest 2007 penny variants came from misaligned die setups, meaning the obverse and reverse were not perfectly aligned when the strike occurred, creating slight rotations or distortions that are barely noticeable unless someone is looking for them. But once confirmed, these errors can increase the value of a coin exponentially because minting misalignments from this particular year are notoriously scarce. Other experts point to the possibility of double die errors, especially on the lettering of Liberty or the date 2007, where a doubling effect creates a shadow-like impression that gives the design a thicker, ghosted appearance, and such doubling, if strong, well-defined, and verified, captures the intense interest of collectors who specialize in error coins. with some of them willing to push prices higher than anyone outside the numismatic world would ever imagine. Add to this the possibility of a striking on the wrong planchette, one of the most valuable and dramatic errors in coin collecting history, where a coin is mistakenly struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or foreign coin, and suddenly you have a recipe for a multi-million-dollar coin, because wrong planchette errors are already rare. But a 2007 wrong planchette penny that is flawless or nearly flawless could explode in value in ways that few coins ever do, especially under the right circumstances and with the right publicity. Now imagine a 2007 penny struck not on the usual copper-plated zinc planchette but on a leftover bronze or even an experimental alloy planchette, something that would immediately catch the attention of metallurgists and collectors, because even a tiny deviation in metal composition can make a coin legendary, especially when you consider that the mint had already changed the penny composition decades earlier but still occasionally allowed earlier materials to slip into rare production moments. These stray planchets can end up in a bin during high-speed production and go unnoticed until the final coin is struck, and once someone discovers the anomaly, the coin becomes the kind of treasure that can transform even the most skeptical collector into a believer in miracles. But beyond composition errors and striking mistakes, the surface condition of a valuable 2007 penny plays a massive role, because a coin with rare errors becomes astronomically more valuable when it's preserved in pristine or near-pristine condition, and in some extraordinary cases, coins that appear brand new despite being nearly 2 decades old raise questions about how they were stored, where they came from, and why they survived without scratches, marks, or signs of circulation. A flawless error coin, especially one graded by a top-tier grading service as Mint State 69 or even the nearly mythic Mint State 70, can shoot up in value much faster than a circulated example, and when you combine that condition with a dramatic error, rumors and speculations begin to swirl that push collectors to bid higher and higher out of fear that they might miss their once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And speaking of rumors, the legend of the multi-million-dollar 2007 penny gained momentum because of whispers that a few extremely odd specimens were found in the aftermath of a minting batch that reportedly had quality control issues, including chatter among collectors about partial collar strikes, off-center strikes, or coins with small fragments of foreign material embedded in the surface that indicate a striking process interrupted by contaminants or machine malfunctions. These unusual features, while rare and often impossible to replicate intentionally, make the coin even more desirable because they represent a snapshot of a minting error frozen in time, a physical piece of evidence that something went wrong at just the right moment to create a collector's dream. Some even speculate about the existence of a so-called mule error involving a 2007 obverse paired with an incorrect reverse, something that would instantly make the coin one of the most valuable modern errors in US history, but whether such a mule exists remains wrapped in mystery, speculation, and the tantalizing possibility that someone, somewhere, unknowingly possesses one of the rarest coins ever struck. As the legend grew, collectors began intensifying their searches, scouring their old jars of change, digging through coin rolls, and examining every 2007 penny under magnification in hopes of spotting the telltale signs of a miracle coin, and the hype around these rare specimens only fueled the belief that a perfect combination of errors could push the value to unbelievable heights. This created a wave of excitement and competition, with some collectors reaching out to private auction houses known for handling exotic coin sales, and others speculating that should one of these mythical 2007 pennies ever be confirmed with multiple errors, such as a combined double die, off-center strike, wrong planchette, and pristine mint state preservation, the bidding could soar to $49 million or even higher, not just because of the rarity but because of the unprecedented collector frenzy that would follow. And so, the 2007 1-cent coin has become one of the most talked about modern pennies in numismatics, not because millions of them are valuable but because the possibility of a single extraordinary specimen ignites the imagination and keeps collectors searching, hoping, dreaming, and believing that their next coin roll, their next pocket find, or their next forgotten drawer discovery might be the one that changes everything. And that's the real magic of coin collecting, the idea that history, luck, and rarity can collide in a single tiny piece of metal that fits in the palm of your hand but holds the potential to change your future forever. So when we talk about a 2007 penny possibly being worth $49 million, we're not talking about the everyday kind you find by the handful, but about the hypothetical combination of once-in-a-generation mint errors and flawless preservation that transforms an ordinary coin into a legendary numismatic marvel. And while the chances of finding such a coin are slim, the excitement it inspires keeps collectors energized, hopeful, and always ready to take one more look at the pennies they might otherwise ignore, because you truly never know what rare treasure might be hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone with curiosity and a good eye to uncover it.